Okay. All right, BKR. Look, I gotta pay my dues. All right. I just gotta throw this image up and it's a little bit like that to start off the season, isn't it, mate? Fair
Usually
freaking
that's us,
decent.
man. Usually that's us in that situation, right? Oh, except for the Dolphins there, who are just a wish version of Gold Coast. But in the same sense, that's usually us, man.
And now the tables have turned. Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome back to the Wobble Enjoy Sports channel, and this is another episode of Riding the River, where I'm joined by only the most reliable of rugby league pundits out there. If you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for your continuous support. And if you're brand new around here, I hope I can get you to consider liking the content and subscribing to the channel. This weekend, we got 2 Queensland derbies, but who cares about what's happening in Brisbane? The real action in Queensland is happening up north as the Cowboys take on the Titans. And to help me preview this matchup is Mr. the one and only BKR Sport. Good sir, thank you very much for your time this evening. How the hell are you?
Yeah, no, I'm going all right, man. You know, obviously it's early in the season, but we're 2-1, which is something that we're not necessarily used to here on the Gold Coast. So, no, pretty happy with it so far. Obviously, we'll get into defensively in a little bit and also attacking wise. But no, I'm going well, man, and ready to rock and roll to head up to Townsville this week.
Yes, sir. And so please, at the end of this stream, if you haven't already, I will put links to his social media pages in the description box below at the conclusion of this live stream. But to everybody that's just starting to trickle in now, thank you very much for giving this stream a crack. It really does mean a lot. Now, I do want to start off as well, Mr. BKR, and say thank you so much for that shout out that you gave me the other week, mate. It clicked over to 1,010 subs, and that was used. So I guess I owe you a coffee or a beer the next time that I see you in person, Mr. BKR. But that was seriously really, really nice of you. Thank you so much, mate. And that's just your motto. That is just how you do things, BKR, isn't it? Is that it's not just about you. It's not just about us doing it. It's about everyone on the platform of YouTube or wherever they do their podcasts. Go out and do it and just be a positive influence in amongst the rugby league community, BKR.
Yeah, look, obviously I see what you're doing, man. I see that you put effort into it, and it's a difficult thing to do. Put yourselves out there publicly, like what we do here as content creators. You know, everyone's going to have a different opinion. Everyone's going to, have a difference of how someone, does their stuff. But the fact of the matter is that you're consistent. You put the effort in, and no, I saw that, man. And you're a good bloke. So I definitely wanted to pump that out there. It is interesting in regards to the fact that it went up and then it went down. But the fact of the matter is that you hit it, and you'll inevitably hit it anyway. But no, absolutely, man. I've been doing this for quite a few years now. I remember when there was no one doing, content creation really in the NRL. And then now we're seeing a whole bunch of people in the last couple of years that have really started to come out and back in their teams and put themselves out there publicly as well. So no, definitely always happy to share people who are deserving of and put the effort into their channels.
Talk to me now about your boys down there on the glitter strip. What have you made of their season so far? Allow me to tell you what I reckon. I think that they are on my power rankings list as of Monday yesterday. I had them in 9th position. I still just need to see that game of defense. But so far, they're very, very striking in attack, aren't they, so far?
Yeah, look, obviously we've been a very attacking team for the last, 15, well, since we've ever been in the competition. We've always been an attacking-minded team with no defense, and that's the problem, that defense wins championships, right? So that's the biggest thing that I feel like Titans fans as a whole the last couple of years have been, screaming out for, is to fix the defense and sort it out a bit more. And in round 1 against the Tigers, I'm going to every single game this year. I've been at all 3 games so far. Round 1 against the Tigers down there at Leichhardt, it looked like we might have actually improved that. I know it's the Tigers, but in the same sense, the Tigers had their forwards, they got them into the attack in 10 and then just kept pumping our line. But our defense, would normally crumble there, right? And last year we lose that game 100% of the time. Last year, 100% we lose that game to the Tigers, and we probably lose by about 20. This year, it did look like a gigantically improved defense from that game, albeit being the Tigers, who are in last and are 0-3 right now. The second game, obviously, the Titans went down there to Cogra. We looked good for the first 20 or so minutes. And then I think it was the 25th minute or so, Sammy Verrills got injured. Now, when Sammy Verrills was down with the HIA back play, that's exactly where Tyrell Sloan found his gap. They scored the try. And then from there, obviously, Verrills goes off and they just keep the momentum going. We weren't able to stop the momentum, which is something that we had a lot last year, i.e. the Broncos game at Suncorp, the Canberra game down there at GIO Stadium. The fact of the matter is that for some reason, when we get that momentum shift against us, we just can't stop the flow. So there was a big negative there that reminded us of old demons from previous years, specifically in 2022. And then the game against the Storm just now, obviously we scored 38 points, but the fact of the matter is that we were down by 12 points at one stage, and the Storm scored 3 quick tries, bang, 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 and it looked like that momentum switch changed, and we weren't going to be able to wrestle it back. But the positive, despite the fact that we did let in a lot of points on a really, really hot day there, it was 39 degrees in the stadium through the, what's it called, those little temperature things. 39 degrees in the stadium, really hot day, provides attacking footy and like a defense due to the stamina. It takes away from a lot of players. So both teams conceded a lot of points there. But the biggest positive that I took out of that, besides scoring 38 points, was the fact that we were able to wrestle back that momentum. Just before halftime, we scored that try. And then from there, we just went bang, 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 and got it out to that 38-point marker where, we ultimately won the game. So it was nervy. And, when people have their concerns about the Gold Coast, I'm very well aware of it. I live it. This is our life as a Titans fan. But yeah, look, I'm still waiting for the team to establish itself, but I always say to people, wait till 5, 6, 7 rounds in before you can even, start to really gather what's going on in the competition. Same thing goes to your Cowboys.
There certainly have been signs of improvement defensively, though. I know that at the moment, stats wouldn't suggest that, but they're just in those first couple of games in the preseason, in that first game against the Tigers, as you alluded to, there was just a little bit more tenacity in the Titans' defensive line. I completely agree. And considering that they were playing on 40-degree weather without the likes of Sam Verrills the other day as well, you can't blame them for leaking that many points. And the same thing could
as
be
well,
said about the Melbourne Storm.
Just to quickly interrupt, a lot of people are talking about the Melbourne Storm being depleted, and they were depleted, of course. Munster, Pappenhausen, I'm not even too sure he comes back fully healthy because that was a brutal injury. They did also receive back Tarek Sims. They also had Nelson Solomona out, but they had Justin Olam come back into the team, Xavier Coates back into the team. But people are happy to look at the Storm, but they're not happy to look at the fact that we had no Sam Verrills. Sammy McIntyre was also injured. We also didn't have Bo Firma. Obviously, he's out. Your Jojo Feeder. We also had quite a few players out in that game. Maybe not to the same extent of a Munster or Pappenhausen, but when you're a small team like ours, those plays make a massive, massive difference, and arguably more of a difference. But then again, obviously the Storm did struggle without Munster. So there was a depleted side on both sides of the ball, but we were just able to have that tenacity, as you said, to come through in the end, which we would have lost last year still. We would have lost that game last year.
Yeah, and still, the Melbourne Storm forward pack that day too. As you said, Kamakamika returned, Tarek Simps returned, Christian Welch was there too. That was no small bloody forward pack that you boys got the job done over the weekend. So out of just a question on the spot, obviously, but what would you give your season so far out of 10, BKR?
So far out of 10, I'd say C+. And the reason why I would say C+ is that we're a 2-1 right now, right? So you can't give it as a failure. We still have one more games and then we've lost. The plus is there because there is positives to the game, but I couldn't give it into the B's just yet because I haven't seen it on a consistent level just yet, which is obviously something that the Titans always go through. But I'd say a C+ based on the fact that it's a pass mark for now. I don't even think that I'd really be able to give many teams, maybe the Broncos and whatnot, they've done well, and the Dolphins, they've done well, but I wouldn't be able to give a great deal of teams above a C right now because we've only seen 3 rounds and 2 rounds for a couple of teams in, the Panthers, Manly, and also I think it might have been, who was the other team? By the Dragons. They've only played 2 games. So I'd give us a C based on the fact that it's a pass. I'd give a lot of teams just a basic C, give it a couple of weeks, but the positives that I've seen, I would give us that plus.
Yo, I think that's absolutely fair. That's absolutely well said. So let's get stuck into the team list news now this weekend. So BKR, take her away, mate. Take us through the 1 to 17 for the Gold Coast Titans, please.
Don't worry, I can easily do that, sir. We've got the Brimdog Millionaire, AJ Brimson, Brimdog Millionaire as the number one, with Alofiana Khan-Pereira and Philip Sami on the wings there. Obviously, Jojo Fida is still injured, but the same sense, these guys did look good on the weekend. So obviously, Jojo will come back in, more than likely for Sami, but for the time being, we do have Alofiana Khan-Pereira and Philip Sami there on the wings. Brian Kelly came back from suspension last week. He's back in as well with Aaron Shuppy in the centres. You got Kizza Foran in the 6 and Tanner Boyd in the 7. The front row forwards there, Moeki Fodawaker and Tino Fa'asu Malawi, with Chris Randall, the number 9, with Sam Farrell still obviously injured. We're also actually looking to get a replacement hooker from, I think, Leeds Rhinos as well to come into the team, just in case Randall does go down. But he is that number 9 for the time being, 100%. Dave Fafita and Joe Stimdog are the 11 and 12, with Isaac Liu as the 13. Jaden Campbell is the utility in 14, with Joe Vuna, Aaron Clark, and Isaac Fa'asul Malawi in the rest of the bench, with Khalees Haas, Sammy McIntyre, and Toby Sexton, who are the reserves there. But obviously, Sammy McIntyre, as I said, is still coming back from a niggling injury.
Yo, thank you, BKR. And shifting over to the North Queensland Cowboys now at fullback, Tom Chester, the centers Valentine Holmes, Guillemart Shibasaki. Halves pairing is Dearden and Townsend. The forward pack, McLean, Robson, and Griffin Neem, because Ruben Cotter is out for this freaking game. The back row, Colin Hess, Jeremiah Nene, and Jason Taumalolo is the lock. And then the interchange bench reads Jake Granville, Hylam Lukey, Jermaine Tornua-Brown, and James Tarmo, with Brenton Elliott and Riley Price and Mitch Dunn on the reserves list. And there could be a possibility of that as well. Now, I've asked you about the Gold Coast Titans, bro. What have you made about the North Queensland Cowboys so far this year?
Cowboys. So I don't know if you saw my preseason predictions or kind of what I was saying about teams preseason, but the Cowboys for me last year were exceptional. You know, I had them for the wooden spoon, like a majority of people did. And obviously they had that surprise factor that really they were able to utilize throughout the entirety of the season. No one believed them. People were expecting a drop-off, which is similar, I guess, to what the Dolphins are doing right now. People are just expecting a drop-off like they had with the Cowboys last year. Will it come? I don't know. But with the Cowboys, it didn't come. They just kept going. And it was just that continuous surprise factor that nearly got them to the grand final. Obviously, they got to the prelim, which was exceptional. I feel like so far they've lost that surprise factor. You know, the teams know what to expect from this team now. You know, they've got Jeremiah Nano, who had that great season, and then hasn't really kind of lived up to it just yet. You know, Chaddy Townsend is playing fine, but he doesn't really have that, you know, people looking at him in a negative sense, saying he's too old, he's too slow, you know, which is what he had last year. It just doesn't seem like it's been able to transition into 2023 just yet. And granted, it has only been 3 rounds. This could easily be a game where they find it again. But in the same sense, the Raiders game, they won 19-18, but they're up 18-0. Let the Raiders, in 20 minutes as well, mind you, and then they let the Raiders get back into that game. And it was actually quite unlucky the Raiders weren't able to take that in the end with their momentum throughout the game. Good win for the Cowboys there, but not a good win if you're looking at it as a whole, just in regards to the fact they were able to hold it out. The second game against the Broncos, that was so underwhelming, man. I was really disappointed in how the Cowboys played in that game. They just weren't able to get anything kind of X factor. There's no X factor there. I know it was a bit wet, I think it was, in that game. But it was, the Broncos just showed that they had a lot more class in that game with the new signing of Reece Welsh, obviously. And they just had a bit more than what the Cowboys did. And the game against the Warriors on the weekend. Now, granted, I haven't been able to watch this full 80 because I was at the Titans Storm game. I was still coming back before I did the Dragons Broncos stream. But they just, again, like from what I've seen, they just don't look like they have that same ambition as they had last year. Ambition to prove everybody wrong is what I would say there. So, yeah, for me, it comes down to the surprise factor, the lacking of that, and also it just doesn't seem like that same ambition to prove everyone wrong is there. But again, it's only 3 rounds in.
Now, we did a stream a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago now about breakout players, and my form line is a lot worse than your form line, BKR. You've hit a couple of nails on the head, bro, including the man that you highlighted big time, Alofiana. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Khan-Pereira, yeah.
Alofiana Khan-Pereira. He's lining up against Kyle Felt this weekend. That is one of my key matchups. Now, the reason for that being Khan-Pereira is on absolute freaking fire, but also that Kyle Felt, you must have heard maybe, but Kyle Felt, he's had some internet dramas, let's put it like that.
I have heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, some of those dramas. So I'm expecting, and cross my fingers, but I am anticipating Kyle Felt to have a big game. So veteran versus the winger. Just want you to touch on the young man, Cam Pereira. Just want you to touch on Cam Pereira and his inside man, Brian Kelly, because Brian Kelly is no slouch. I think he is underrated, and he looked really good upon return after his suspension. So Cam Pereira and Kelly versus Kyle Felt and Shibasaki this weekend. How do you see that matchup going down, man?
Yeah, that's an interesting matchup there for Kyle Felt, because Kyle Felt's got the consistency and the reliability from the past, but in the same sense hasn't necessarily done it so far. And I would also say he was reliable last year, but wasn't anything spectacular last year in comparison to what we have seen throughout his career. It's going to be really interesting there with that matchup there, which I wasn't actually aware until right now. I didn't even think about that, because if Alofiana gets away from him, he's gone. Like Alofiana, he hasn't actually had that ball that's actually broken him like at the 20 meters and seen the chase yet. He's not going to catch him there, right? We obviously saw that try against the Storm where he stepped on the inside and then shaped it out to the left side and just broke around to score, which was just really nice. And I know that's what Loffy can do. You know, I've seen Loffy do that for the Burleigh Bears. Loffy's a good friend of mine. You know, I know what he can provide. And it was amazing to see him put that together. Against the Dragons, it looked like he was quite fresh and quite green. Against in the first game, he scored a couple of tries. Who did he score? No, sorry, he didn't score. It was the Tigers game. They looked really fresh and green. The second game was when he came in and scored a couple of tries against the Dragons. He scored a try against the Dragons. But the fact of the matter is that he was working into it. Then we had that Storm game. He scored twice and did look great there, right? Obviously, there's still a lot of room for improvement defensively, but he did look good alongside Brian Kelly there. So, yeah, that is a tough matchup there for you, because obviously Gehama Shibasaki is not a starting player for you guys. Usually it's Peter Hiku, who did have a terrible game against the Broncos, mind you. But the fact of the matter is that Brian Kelly is a class player that most people can respect as just a low-end quality in regards to the team makers that we do on my channel. I definitely have him, you know, as a decent backline player. Didn't really get it going last year, but then again, that was a club issue. So, yeah, I think that's a worrying matchup for you with the speed and the elusiveness and the freshness of a Loffy going up against a older, reliable, and usually consistent Felt, but I feel like that could go in favor of Loffy if the ball's given to him right.
Well, look, to be perfectly honest with you, Shibasaki, he played his first game of first grade in 18 months, maybe even 2 years. And he had a couple of penalties. He had a couple of errors in his game against the New Zealand Warriors this past weekend. I'm willing to stick with him. I'm still willing to support him. But to be frank with you, if I'm taking off me rose-colored glasses, Shibasaki and Felt versus Cam Pereira and Brian Kelly, I've got to say, I've got to give the points to the Gold Coast Titans, man, just because Shibasaki is still just really rough around the edges after being out of first grade.
He's always been around there, though, you know? Like, he's always been, you're kind of frozen for me, but he's always been around the point of that team and just never really kind of gotten anything consistent going. You're frozen for me. I don't know if I'm frozen or you're frozen, but you're frozen for me. Oh, you're back? You're back?
I'm here. Can you hear me, BKR?
I can hear you now. Yeah,
apologies.
Yeah, no, I was freaking out. I didn't know if that was me and it was me freezing or if it was you, but no, it's all good now, man. Did you hear what I said?
No, I didn't. Repeat that, please, mate.
I was saying Shibasaki's always kind of like been around the team. You know, it's not like he's always been thereabouts. He just hasn't had that ability to get implemented in, especially, you know, with the fact that Val Holmes was there in that position as well, Peter Hiku, and, you know, there's been players that have come through Hamiso. He's never really been able to do it. So, I'm not too sure about Shibasaki as a whole, but I know what Felt can provide. So I know that if Felt is the same reliable, consistent player that we've seen of old, then, you know, maybe that matchup might be a little bit more difficult for a young talent, you know, green talent like Loffy. But overall, yeah, I'm excited to see that matchup. And it could be very rocks and diamonds with Brian Kelly and Loffy this season, but in the same sense, I'm willing to back in the diamonds there.
Yeah. And so we got a question here for you, BKR. Again, sincerest apologies. Question for BKR. What is a pass mark for the Gold Coast Titans? Avoiding the bottom four, making the 8. What's a satisfactory result for you this year, mate?
I think a pass mark based off of last year would be to at least be competing for the 8. So, you know, within that top 10, right? Anything below the top 10, I wouldn't be enjoying at all. I'd even say, you know, top 10's fine, because if you're just missing out, as long as you show those positives, but in the same sense, inside of me, I genuinely still believe this team can finish in that top 8, 100%. And I genuinely believe where we're sitting right now in 6th is where I put us in pre-season, right? People are always going to laugh at, no matter what, where you put the Titans, people are always going to laugh at because we've never given people a reason to believe in this team because it's always been, it has been negative for the last, 13 odd years and since 2010 with Scotty Prince, Preston Campbell, Luke Bailey and the likes. So I understand why people laugh at that. But if you look at this team, they have made improvements in places they've needed to, and they haven't looked better so far. So for me, a pass mark for me is still just making the 8, but I can understand and do a lower pass mark of top 10 for people who aren't Titans fans.
Yo. Okay, then. And final siren, talking about Pereira versus Felt. Pereira's got more pace and speed. He just suits the modern game more better than Kyle Felt does. But I still think Kyle Felt is going to come out and have a very, very fiery game after what's happened to him this weekend. And look, let's just jump ahead. And Paddy G, Nene versus Fafita is the matchup for me. What do you reckon about that, mate? And it is sort of funny that, look, for the longest time, David Fafita, unfortunately, was said, look, he's not doing enough. And while there were games where he could have done more, I don't think all of it was totally just on David Fafita. Whereas Jeremiah Nene, let's talk about it now. He's had 8 runs in 2 games for about 80 meters combined in those 2 contests, man. Something to that effect, man. But he's barely cracked the 100-meter mark. And I believe if David Fafita is inside Brian Kelly this weekend, I believe on that left edge, attacking-wise for the Gold Coast Titans, Nene versus David Fafita is that matchup this weekend, bro. Nene, though, has missed more tackles than a whole lot of the rest of the competition so far this season. So David Fafita is going to be copping some short balls. He's going to be trying to find that gap between Chad Townsend and Jeremiah Nene. Absolutely, David Fafita is going to be that man that we got to zero in on, man, because he's scored a couple of famous tries up at Queensland Country Bank already, bro.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, look, obviously, Dave, he cops a lot of slack because, and this is a sole because he earned 1.25 or 1.2 million a season. And based on those numbers, he should have been having that 2021 season every single year. But that was unfortunately due to the fact that the market value for David Fafita at that time was at that price. He's now come down to about the 850 over 3 seasons, 850 per year over 3 seasons. So a lot of people can't really complain about that because that's actually pretty good value for a player of his standard. Last year, when people were effectively shitting on him every single game, he had an incredible tackle efficiency. He doesn't miss a great amount of tackles there. People think that he doesn't look for it, and I would slightly agree with that at points, but the fact of the matter is that last year we had AJ Brimson at the 6, and the 7 was Tanner Boyd / Toby Sexton. Dave started to come onto it a lot more later in the year when Tanner Boyd came into the team, who's obviously a halfback right now. They've been going through all the youth systems and the development systems together. So he worked a lot better with Tanner Boyd, but there was still something there that was left to be desired. And then Kieran Foran's come in now, and he's actually got decent ball from his inside man, which is effectively what he needs, right? They need to get him into the right position, and then when he runs onto it, he'll do it. Now, look, that game, I think you're frozen again, but that game, I don't know, am I alive? I know you're back. Yeah, sorry, I didn't know if I was. I didn't know if when you froze that I wouldn't be alive. So that's why I was going to stop. But no, I was saying that when Dave Fafita has those 2 inside men from the Tanner Boyd and also Kieran Foran, he does work a lot better on the attack, as we've seen. He still hasn't exactly gone crazy just yet, besides that Tigers game. But the fact of the matter is that I believe that Jeremiah Nene is having a relatively similar year in regards to what Dave had last year. Yep. It will be interesting to see if Nanai can pick himself up from it, because Nanai was a very hype player last year and he was absolutely incredible. But he also is heavily reliant on tries, which is what Dave, I guess, made his name for back in 2021 to the casual fan who doesn't necessarily see the tackle efficiency, doesn't see what they do in regards to the ball movement off the field, and also running decoy plays to scare the opposition. Last week against the Storm, Dave Fafita had a 100% tackle efficiency. He didn't miss a single tackle in the entire game. So, I'm going to back my boy in Dave here. 100%. I back my boy in Dave, and I genuinely believe he's going to crack it.
Yo, and look, a question here for Warriors NRL Fanatics from Warriors NRL Fanatics as well. What's your thoughts on AJ Brimson's start to the season so far? He's been bloody good for you boys, hasn't he?
Yeah, Brimo is a really good friend of mine, man. He's a fantastic bloke, and he loves this team. You know, he really cares about this Gold Coast Titans. Everything that he does is because he's a Gold Coast boy, right? So he wants this club to be successful and this community to be successful. Same kind of viewpoint as to me in regards to the community. And with AJ Brimson going into that Tigers game, he was phenomenal in the game against the Tigers. The Dragons game, he was also one of the best by far as well with the Titans. And then that game against the Storm, he was incredible again. So no, AJ Brimson is such an underrated player. You know, I can't believe that people are still talking about Dylan Edwards. He's very rated. We're all very aware how good he is. But if we're going to talk about underrated players in the league, it absolutely is AJ Brimson. You know, he picked this team out of absolutely nothing sometimes. He'll find a gap out of absolutely nothing. And he is he's a pacey player. He genuinely cares about the club. He won't go anywhere. He is 100% Gold Coast. So, get around the Brim Dog Millionaire.
Now, a couple of stats that I've got to get through. So, ineffective tackles and missed tackles. Unfortunately, both of our teams are up there. We're either first and second for missed tackles, or we're second versus third as far as ineffective tackles go. I think we're going to see a really fast game between the Cowboys and the Titans, but I think the Titans are going to have the better attack, and they've shown that they've had the better attack this year already. Whereas the Cowboys, man, I truly feel, bro, that it's just going to take that one game to click into gear defensively, and we're going to be right. But far out, Ruben Cotter's out. He's out of this game, man, and that is it's a massive loss, bro. So we've got Hylam Lukey, we've got Jake Granville on the bench, JTB, and James Tarmo. With all due respect, excluding Lukey and Granville, who are more proven in comparison to JTB. JTB's got to have a really big game this weekend. I do like the work that he does get through. The problem that I've got with JTB is A, he's not as consistent in the tackling department, and B, his post-contact meters, his aggression BKR, he's going to have to smash into Big Tino Fa'asuamala-Aui and Big Joe Simpson, who's actually, while he's missing tackles, unfortunately, when it sticks, it freaking sticks from Joe Simpson, man. So JTB, bro, he's going to have to fight for those post-contact meters more than he has in a lot of previous contests, bro, because JTB, man, he's dying with the ball way too quickly, and he's getting dominated on the ground as well. And someone like Big Tino and/or Stimson, man, they're going to wrap him up and just fall asleep on him.
Yeah, look, obviously, you know, Joe Stimson, I didn't believe much, and I've actually spoken to him about this and had a conversation about this, that I didn't believe anything was really going to come from him coming into this Gold Coast Titans team. I thought it was just a bit of depth. I thought it was just going to be a bit of extra work off the bench, like a transition forward, a forward that we'd use at times when there's an injury and whatnot, because he didn't really do anything with the Dogs. There was nothing really there. But then he's come in and he's actually been a good workhorse, because Bo Firma is obviously out for the season with his ACL that he did about 4 weeks ago at training, which really hit us hard on the Gold Coast, because he was probably our best player realistically last year. Bo Firma has been incredible for us, and that's a big shoes to fill there with Joe Stimson. But he came in and he has done a rocking job, man. You know, a consistent job against the Storm. He was a great player against the Dragons, and he was very solid against the Tigers. Well, actually, topped the tackle count against the Tigers as well, Joe Stimson. So yeah, the Cowboys forwards are going to have it cut out for them, man, because this forward pack does definitely look a lot better than it has last season. You know, there are missing players there, but the fact of the matter is that the players that have come in have done the job to replace that. And, you know, when you got guys like Aaron Clark coming off the bench, who is a fantastic forward that goes into that lock position. Isaac Liu is a really good ball distributor. You got Tino Fa'asuamala-Aui, who is, you know, Tino. We all know how good Tino is. Moeaki Fotuaika was the best player for Queensland, I think, in 2021 game 1 or whatever it was. He has had those big moments as well. You know, hasn't been what he has in the past, in recent years, but the fact of the matter is that he's absolutely still got it. And then you got Dave Fafita and Joe Simpson there. Isaac Fa'asuamala-Aui, who came in very nice off the bench, and Joe Vuna as well, scored a try against the Storm. It's been a long time between drinks since Joe Vuna's last game, but you know, Joe Vuna is a tough worker, man. You know, he puts the effort in, and he was one of the better players, I believe, as well in that game against the Storm.
Yep, yeah, and I'm going to just quickly bring up the team list now so I can just give myself a quick reminder. So on the other side of the field, we touched on one backline battle. We're going to touch on the next one here. We've got Murray Taulagi versus Philip Sami, and we've got Valentine Holmes versus Aaron Schopp this weekend, bro. So while I do think that you boys have the edge on that side, I think that Valentine Holmes has been underrated in a way this year. He's gotten through a lot of big work, and he's one of the main reasons how and why we were kept in that game in round two against the Broncos and against the Warriors for a portion there for so long. I think Valentine Holmes is still going at the pace he was in his Dally M Centre of the Year in 2022. And Murray Taulagi, while the tries have, it's only round 3 or 4, but while the tries aren't coming as easily for him, I still think Murray Taulagi is doing fantastic work coming out of our back half. And I think that if Tom Dearden can work his magic and get a little bit more involved than what he wasn't in the performance last week and against the Warriors, I think Dearden can find some really good gaps for Valentine Holmes and Murray Taulagi to score through between Sami and Schopp, because looking at the missed tackles again, Aaron Schopp is unfortunately up there for missed tackles as well. So I think while you have one edge covered, I think we got this edge covered when Holmes and Taulagi take on Aaron Schopp and Philip Sami, with all due respect to those players who are very good in their own right, BKR.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely give the advantage to Valentine Holmes and Murray Taulagi there. There's no doubt about that. However, I will say in regards to the numbers for Schopp is actually one of the better defensive centers in the game. I would say a top 10 defensive center in the game. Yes, he may have a few missed tackles, but the missed tackles compared to the tackles that he makes that prevents the tries, the missed tackles will come from the Storm game, right? The Storm game was a very high explosive game in incredible heat. And most of those missed tackles more than likely would have come in that game. The Tigers game, he was incredible defensively. He was one of our best players in the park. He just would not let anyone get through in that Tigers game. And again, it's the Tigers, right? And I know what happened in the Dragons game too, but Aaron Schopp is a very good defensive-minded player. You don't usually necessarily see an insane amount in the attack, but he still scored 2 tries against the Storm on the weekend. Were from Storm mistakes, though. So the Cowboys just need to lock up some mistakes, because when Schopp sees that ball, he gets up and he goes. And that's exactly what happened in that Storm game. Philip Sami is on that side as well. Sami can have his moments. Sami can be very good. He has played Queensland before, albeit didn't play well in that game. But the fact of the matter is he still got selected for that game, which means that you have to be pretty damn well good to be playing an Origin match, which they did actually win as well. Sami it can be very hot and cold, but in the same sense, has been good in the last couple of games. But I definitely will give that battle to Murray Taulagi and Valentine Holmes, because I think that Val Holmes, obviously centre isn't really regarded as a crazy position in regards to Dally points, but I would nearly have said that Valentine Holmes was one of, if not the best player of 2022.
Yo, true. And what was your impression of Chris Randall? I mean, I'm sure that you must have seen a few of his games for Newcastle last year. But what did you make of Randall's game? Because I thought he was actually pretty decent for you blokes last weekend. And the battle between him and Robson is going to be really interesting. I mean, they're both going to finish up with 55 tackles at the end of this game this weekend, aren't they?
Yeah, Chris Randall's a tackle bot, man. He's not, you don't necessarily rely on him for a lot of the attack, but when you've got a guy like Kieran Foran in the attack, you've got a guy like Tanner Boyd there, and also Jaden Campbell that can be implemented into that 6 role, which worked beautifully against the Melbourne Storm when they took Foran off. They put Jaden Campbell on, mixed it up, and then brought Foran on at the right time. You don't necessarily need to see a phenomenal amount of dummy half runs or a phenomenal amount of attack out of Chris Randall, where he is literally known as a defensive-minded player. He's also just known as a tackle bot, right? So Chris Randall was very solid. I didn't have many problems with Chris Randall at all. There's no X factor there. I wouldn't necessarily look for the X factor in Chris Randall, but he's a very solid player. Reece Robson can have that X factor, absolutely. And that's why I told you that I thought Reece Robson could play that New South Wales 9 this year pre-season. And I still believe that's probably going to be the case, because I don't think Damien Cook's necessarily getting it done. But Chris Randall is a guy that doesn't mind just throwing himself at tackles, throwing himself at the defense. And I was pleasantly surprised with him coming in for Sam Verrills, who was a huge loss for the Gold Coast Titans when we did lose him.
Yeah. Just want to ask you about Jaden Campbell. What's your opinion on what's been going on with Jaden Campbell? Are you happy with how they're using him, or are you still sort of questioning, or are you still not understanding what Justin Holbrook is trying to achieve with Jaden Campbell, BKR?
So I know what they're doing long term. I obviously do a lot of stuff with the club, so I know a lot. I know what's going on for a decent bit, but in the same sense, I don't know how much I kind of necessarily want to say, but Jaden Campbell is not going to play the fullback. We all know AJ Brimson's a better fullback there. Jaden Campbell also, just to clarify for anybody who thinks, oh, he might be looking to go elsewhere, Jaden Campbell will never go anywhere. Like, he has no interest in going anywhere. I've spoken to him about this many, many a times. You know, he's appreciated that I've told publicly that Jaden has no interest and is not going anywhere. There's just not even on the horizon whatsoever. There is a long-term plan with Jaden that I believe that Jaden Campbell is being prepared to be the 6 once Kieran Foran goes. So he's playing the 14 so that he can, one, learn from Kieran Foran there in that 6, can come in for AJ Brimson, the fullback, if he needs to be. Has also been training on the wings. It can be thrown to the wing if necessary, even though we've got pretty decent depth in that wing position there. Point of the matter is that Jaden Campbell knows exactly what his role is. He is 100% for this club. He is everything about the Gold Coast. And I absolutely back in what's been going on with Jaden Campbell from the inside.
That's fantastic, man. So what you're also saying is that I was about a year or two off by predicting that Jaden Campbell is going to be a breakout star in 2023, maybe 2024, when he gets more opportunities when Foran eventually.
I think that if anything, you'd be looking at 2025, because obviously Kieran Foran signed this year and next year. I wouldn't be surprised if Kieran Foran gets signed for an extra year, but I do believe that will be the year that Jaden Campbell really takes over and Kieran stays around the club, because obviously he lives in the Gold Coast now. He's bought a house on the Gold Coast, Kieran. You know, he's not going to go to another team. He's already said this. He's too old now to pack up and move to another team. So he's settled here. I think he'll sign an extra year, but I do believe 2025 will be the year that Jaden Campbell takes over that 6, because he is, if you watch him play, can play a fantastic 6.
Yeah. Now, just want to shift over to the North Queensland Cowboys, man, and talk about the halves. I've already touched on Tom Dearden, and I really want him to get more involved and implement and inject Murray Taulagi and Valentine Holmes. But I've got to say, without Scott Drinkwater and Peter Hiku, boy, howdy, our attack it was without Scott Drinkwater and Peter Hiku, but boy, howdy, man, it looked really pedestrian last weekend against the New Zealand Warriors. Chad Townsend was putting chip kicks over the top in the middle there was nothing on. There was nothing on. It looks like that the only weapon that we've got at the moment without Scott Drinkwater and Peter Hiku, who can sometimes float in from the center, play as a fullback and link up with Valentine Holmes and Murray Taulagi, for example, or even all the way back to Kyle Felt. Our only weapon is the kick at the moment, bro. And I think about taking on the Gold Coast Titans, who scored that amazing try to start off the game against the Melbourne Storm, having Cam Pereira, Brian Kelly break up the middle first, and then see what AJ Brimson did to then pass back on the inside to Cam Pereira. That attack is flowing really nicely. And
that was also a very risky thing that Brimo did, by the way. I spoke about this with him afterwards. That was a very risky pass, because he has that try 100% in the corner. There's no way anyone gets him, but instead he passed it back in, which worked well. But holy shit, man. Like, that could have easily been a forward pass. It could have easily been a knock on. It could have easily been a mistake. But we'll take the 6 points from that try.
Yeah, true, dude. I gotta rewatch it then. Okay. The attack of the Cowboys has got to step up. And Tom Chester is a young pit bull. I don't know if you've seen much of Tom Chester at all. As you said, I don't think you watch much of the Cowboys Warriors game, with all respect. But Tom Chester, man, he just fights for every single ball that's available to him. His run meters gained were fantastic as well. So I'm looking forward to see how Townsend, Dearden, and Chester this weekend and the next weekend after can combine to try and score some more points that's not off a kick or towards Jeremiah Nane, sorry. So let's wrap things up now, man. Give us your anytime try scorer and let us know how loud you're going to be, because you're going to be up there at Queensland Country Bank Stadium this weekend, aren't you?
Yeah, we'll be there. I'm at every game this year, home or away. So, yeah, I get a nice little bye week next week after this one, which is crazy, because if we were to win this game, we would be 4-1 going to the bye. 3-1 going to the bye, which would make us effectively 4-1.
And
so that'd be a great start.
That scares me a little bit more, BK, just because, hey, boys, we got the bye next weekend. Let's put in the big time. Let's put in the big shift against the Cowboys this weekend. So that bloody scares me a little bit more, mate.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and it would be just an incredible start for a club that doesn't usually get off to a good start. Usually, we come home like a train later on in the year. Usually, it's very inconsistent and very slow to start off with, and then the last 5-6 games they turn into prime Melbourne Storm for some damn well reason when it's all done and over. But yeah, look, I'm excited for the game. I've never been to North Queensland Stadium before. I've never been there. That's one of the only stadiums left. I've got Penrith there and the New Zealand Mount Smart still to go with. So after that, I'll only have 2 left there. We don't play Penrith and Penrith, which we haven't played them for like 10 years in Penrith. And we don't play New Zealand this year. It's only at Seabus. So I'll only be able to tick that one off this year. But no, I'm excited. What was the other question that you said before?
Let's get into the tips now, man. What do you reckon is going to happen in this game? What do you reckon the final scoreline is going to be? Anytime try scorer. What do you reckon is going to happen in this contest, bro?
I'm happy to say 1-12, and I genuinely do believe the Titans win this game. I understand that there is a massive threat that the Cowboys can win this game. They have to have a bounce back. They have to prove that everyone is now incorrect, which is exactly what happened last year. They wanted to prove people were wrong, and then came out and then proved people were wrong. Now, this is kind of a game where they feel like they have to come out and prove people wrong. So maybe if they could do that, then they could come out and they could, score quite a few points. But in the same sense, the Titans are going to score quite a few points themselves as well. But I'm happy to say the Titans have made enough improvements this year, especially with Brett White there, that I believe that we can get the win. I think that Alofiana Khan-Pereira against Kyle Feldt, as you said, is bang on for a try, man. He's with his pace, with his elusiveness, and when he gets a smell for a try, he scores it. That's why he's the top try scorer for the Burleigh Bears last year. He's already scored 3 tries this season in 3 games, scored 6 tries in the preseason, 4 against the Dolphins and 2 against the Broncos. So although it's a pretty obvious pick on a wing and a guy like Alofiana Khan-Pereira, I think absolutely bang him in. And I'd also be happy to bang in David Fifita for a try in that game as well, especially with the fact that, he's due a try realistically. Didn't score against the Storm. Didn't score against the Dragons and didn't score against the Tigers. I don't think he's scored a try so far this season. He's been great, but he hasn't scored a try yet. So I'd say that if anyone's due for a try, it'd be David Fifita. I think that Alofiana Khan-Pereira is nearly a bolter, and I'm happy to go with the 1-12, but I absolutely understand the threat. So if I was to go with a score, I'd say, I'm going to go 24-16. I'm going to go 24-16.
That is one of the largest omens I've seen and heard in a really long time, that Fifita hasn't scored a try so far this year, man. Oh, no, that's a really good one, bro. Look, I'm going to go with Valentine Holmes to be an anytime try scorer and Tom Dearden. I think there is going to be a lot of success down that edge, but Tom Dearden and Valentine Holmes need to be well and truly switched on, because this, obviously, no game's easy, but man, this Titans outfit, based on what the Cowboys have produced so far this season, man, points are not going to come easy for us, unfortunately, just naturally. And defensively, man, we need to wind back the clock by a few months, man, and defend really, really well.
Because Cowboys were good defensively last year, they were.
Yeah, man. It's crazy that our second halves last year, we were famous for, because we kept teams scoreless for about 7-8 weeks there. And now we don't do friggin' nothing. Well, they haven't done anything for the first 3 weeks. But look, I like you. I do believe that the Cowboys can get this win, but it's not going to be 13 plus if we do, man. And it's funny that about the past 6 encounters between the Gold Coast Titans, the average score margin has been bloody blown out of the friggin' water.
I saw that today. The Cast Patrol boys and I were having a laugh about that, because I think it was Ados the Great tip Titans 1-12, and because in that stat he said that usually the winner of this game wins by like 20 plus. I think we won it in 2021 by that margin a couple of times, and then last year obviously you won it by that a sizable margin that first game and in the second game as well. So yeah, it was quite funny, but I think that there is still absolutely a shout that either team could win this 13 plus. I think the Cowboys have that surprise factor now that they've been underwhelming for the first 3 games, that they could surprise. And then I do also feel like the Titans have enough points in them that they could do it themselves, and the Cowboys have to try and go toe-to-toe with the Titans, right? So there is that ability for this game to be a blowout, 100%. Okay. I don't doubt that for a moment. However, I would be leaning to it being more close.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. So, look, if the Cowboys are going to win, man, the Titans, I fear, are going to be rather resolute, or more resolute in defense, just because that bye is next weekend, man. So I won't go 24-16. I'm going to go a scoreline of maybe 18 points to 18 points to 14. I'm going to really try and trust. I am going to trust that the defense does come back to the front for him, and we win that game 18 points to 14. But I do think we are in for a cracker. It's going to be the closest game in at least 4
the whole
years
season's
between
been
the Cowboys
close, man.
and Titans. Yeah, man.
The whole season's been close. It's literally the closest season since, I think, 1975 is what the NRL said there. Every game is close. The only blowout was, I'd say, Warriors-Cowboys was a convincing win for the Warriors, which was probably the
Manly
second
Dogs.
most. But Manly Dogs, yeah. Because even Storm Dogs, the Storm came rocketing back into it, and there was a chance for them at one stage to really actually take the win there, but they didn't. But overall, most games are finishing by 4 points. Look at Parramatta, they're 0-3 right now and lost all 3 games by only 4 points each time.
Yeah, we all said it. We all said it, man, that this season is going to be the most unpredictable, wildest season.
Mm-hmm.
And holy crap, it's living up to it, man. So, BK, I think safest of travels up to Queensland Country Bank Stadium. And by the way, the Burleigh Bears Queensland rugby league team, women's rugby league team, are playing the North Queensland Gold Stars, Mackay Cutters now known these days. So there's a little bit more of a Gold Coast versus North Queensland theme to it as well, man. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, BK. Safest of travels. And ladies and gentlemen, please go and check him out. That's it for now. Enjoy your footy this weekend. Come on, the Cowboys. And
we're getting the win, mate. I don't even need to scream. We're getting it, baby. We're getting it, baby. I'm going up there for the dub. I'm going up there for the dub, Sammy. That's it.
That's it. Woo! Have a good one, guys.